Alright people, so this is the start of me replacing my clutch in my 99 Camaro, Chevy Camaro. Got the LS1 in it with the T56 manual transmission, 6-speed. Got a few things done to it, but I'll explain all that later. Just trying to get this in and out. While I'm in here changing out the clutch, I'm also going to replace my slave cylinder. This right here. Pretty sure you guys are familiar with slave cylinders, so I'm not about to go explaining everything. You need to know what it is, look it up. But also I'm gonna show you what my clutch is. So this is my clutch, and this is a McLeod, however you want to pronounce it. Yeah, y'all know what that is. But it's a stage 2 clutch. The clutch, the pressure plate, that's the clutch right there. Actual clutch plate, that's the pressure plate. I also got the kit with the master cylinder for the clutch. It's actually a real wood. And also got another stainless steel line for the slave cylinder. And this hose right here is just for the reservoir for the master cylinder. And then I also have the flywheel. And the only reason why I got a flywheel was because this clutch recommended a new flywheel, because the original flywheel on the LS1 with the T56, it doesn't work with this clutch, because this clutch is actually an inch bigger than the original clutch that's already in the car. So because it's bigger, it required me to get another flywheel, which is this one. And I'm not sure exactly the part numbers, but I'll just have to go do some research on that and find out exactly what they were. But this was the one recommended to go with this clutch, and I got these off of Summit Racing. Was under about, clutch itself was about 500 bucks. The flywheel was another 260, so total it all up, I'm gonna say about 7, maybe 800 bucks altogether. So it's a little on the price side, but hey, it'll be worth it, because this clutch is capable of holding up to around 500 to 550 horsepower. So, and I also went and got a I forgot what they call this, but it's for the oil pressure inside the backside of the LS1. That is barbell plug, that's what it is. If you're not familiar with it, do some research on it. The LS engine barbell plug helps keep oil pressure going into the filter, out to the block. It's a lot of explaining to do. You just have to do your research on it. But yeah, so we're about to get started. Catch you guys in a few. What's going on, people? So I got the drive shaft out, as you can see, and it is a aluminum drive shaft. They say that these come stock in these cars. If that's what they say, okay, you know, got no choice but to believe them, you know. I also have it up on jack stands, as you can see. I also have the torque arm removed so that I can have more space to pull this transmission out. So still got a little bit more work to do, but it took time just to jack it up evenly on the jack stands and set it up so that I can start messing with it. The torque arm, there was a bolt at the top, you can see right there, that piece right there, that black rubber piece, that piece, there's a bolt at the top that you got to take out, because it goes through the end of the torque arm. You can see where the two holes are. It goes through that, so you can't just pull it out even after you pull these 2 long bolts that go through the rear end. Those 2 bolts go through the holes which hold it on to the rear end of the car. So once you take those 2 bolts out, you take that 1 bolt off at the top of that bushing back there on the side of the transmission, and this will slide out. So next step is going to be jacking up the transmission. I already took the bolt off of the cross member that holds the transmission to it. I gotta take the 2 bolts off on this side and the 2 bolts off on this side. Let me show you, give you a better angle. So for the transmission cross member, these 2 bolts right here, and then there's another 2 over there. 1, 2. Those 2 come off. This whole cross member comes down. I already took the bolt off for the. This is the bolt that bolts to the mount for the transmission right here, and then this whole thing will just be able to slide down. You got to get a jack to hold it up so it doesn't slide. It doesn't hang down. And then it's pretty much just unplugging a couple wires, which I've already done. Mine just got modifications done to it, so some of the plugs weren't used because it's already been tuned, and some of the plugs don't need to be used. There was one there. There was another plug that wasn't being used, but it's a lot more stuff. Just, you know, make sure you unplug all the wires and stuff before you just yank this thing out of there, or you'll just go messing things up. So we'll be back with another one once I actually pull this thing out of here. All right, back again, people. So right now I'm trying to get the as you see, the consoles out. Took the console out. Y'all want to know how to do that, y'all look the videos up, but I'm showing how to remove the transmission. The console has to come out. Right now I'm taking the dust boot cover off from the floor so that I can get to the bolts that hold the actual shifter to the transmission. There goes one of the bolts right there. So once I get this off, I'll be able to do that. But update, you already know I took the drive shaft out. Right now I've already got the cross member off. What's up? And yo, and I got the bolts off from around the transmission, and I believe it's 8 of them total. There's I don't know, I can't remember how many's on this side. I think there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's 4 on this side. So yeah, 4 on that side and then 4 on this side. Now you can see the 3, 1, 2, 3 is up there. The 4th one is all the way up, that almost at the top. Now there is a bracket that's on that 4th one at the top, but you have to take the cross member off, which is where these 2 bolts were and where these 2 bolts are. And then that 1 bolt I told you in another video. Once you take that cross member off, which is right there, you have to have a jack to hold this transmission up so it doesn't drop down. You have to drop it down some, let the jack down some, and let it drop down so you can at least get about an inch or 2 so that you can get your hand up in there so that you can get to that bolt at the top. Now how I did it, I used very long extensions from all the way up there that stretched all the way through the tunnel where the transmission sits, all the way back to where the drive shaft sat. So the extension came from all the way back there where the transmission is, all the way back to where the drive shaft sat, right up in here. I'm not sure how long of the extension it was, but as you can see, that's a very long extension that needs to go from here all the way up there. So I'm gonna say at least a good 3 feet, maybe 2 or 3 feet probably of extensions. But yeah, so once I got all those bolts out, now I'm working on getting that shifter out. All right, so the transmission is down and out. I just have to take it from under the car and start replacing seals and shit. There's the old clutch. That's all getting replaced. I have to take that cover off from around the bell housing. That's another time. I've already been used up. Wasted a lot of time trying to get this thing out today. It's already getting late. As you can see, it was bright outside when I started, and now it is dark. As you can see, yeah, there's no light anymore. So yeah, great start. I guess we'll start with replacing seals and stuff like that another time, and I'll start the video up sooner or later. Catch you guys next time. What's going on, people? So back at it again. As y'all can see, it's daylight. Yesterday I pulled the transmission out. Today I'm messing with the slave cylinder. I already got the 2 bolts out. Pulling this off now. And when I got the car, the guy actually told me that I needed to replace this. And in my other 2 videos, I actually showed I have a new one. It's in the trunk of the Camaro right now, but it looks like it's got some play in this too. So it does seem like it might be around that time to be replacing this. So it doesn't look like it's been leaking, but it definitely got some signs of wear and tear on it. So I figured while it's already out, might as well go ahead and replace it. And yeah, so I'll go on and drain this out and end up just probably cleaning all this up and stuff right now. It rained not too long ago, so I can't slide up under there to mess with that clutch. As you can see, it's still wet, so I'm just gonna be messing with this today. All right, so this video is just basically showing the same thing I showed before. I put the new slave cylinder on, cleaned it up a bit. Yeah, pretty much just cleaned it up. I also cleaned the shifter. The shifter, greased it up. A bunch of dirt built up inside of it. Cleaned the shifter out, and you can actually see that it's a hearse now. And as you can see down in there, I greased it up real good. Got all the dirt out the springs and stuff, and it's actually working pretty decent now. The springs actually work pretty decent. The shifter actually centers back. If I was to shift over to 1st or 2nd, or shift over to 5th and 6th, if I let it go, it'll actually center back into neutral where it should sit. Before, I had an issue with it centering from 5th and 6th. If I hold it to the right, it'll actually stay there. But once I greased it up and everything, and I took everything apart inside of it, those 2 screws and those 2 screws right there hold the springs in that hold down onto the shifter, the lever itself, and then this whole piece just comes off. The lever separates from the base plate down here. This whole shaft just comes out. You take those 2 bolts out, this hold down bracket, this black piece right here just comes out. And yeah, I just cleaned everything out, greased it up real good, and it's working just fine now. So can't wait to put my damn transmission back in here, get this hole out my floor. Tired of seeing my car on jack stands. So that's pretty much it. Next I'm going to be messing with my actual clutch. Like I said earlier today, it was raining, so it dried up pretty much now, but earlier it was still wet. But I'll get to doing my clutch tomorrow, so I'll be back at it. Alright, so as you can see, got the flywheel off along with the back plate for the rear main seal. There it is. That's the crankshaft, oil pan. Pretty sure you guys are familiar with this. Yeah, so there were, what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's 12 bolts. All these bolts that go around the back side of the plate that holds the rear main seal in. Take all those bolts out and that just comes off. Oh yeah, and then there's 2 bolts that go in at the bottom of the oil pan that goes straight up into the bottom half of this plate. And this is where the bolt holes are, right here at the very bottom of it. That's how it looks, and they go right in at the bottom. This is the flywheel underneath of that. That's the flywheel. Pressure plates underneath of that, but that's the clutch. Now the clutch does look burnt up, but I'm suspecting there were some pressure plate issues, because The clutch isn't all the way burnt out, and it still looks like it's got some life in it, but I also think because of this oil leak that we have the problem with right now is probably another reason why that is probably slipping, because there was probably oil getting on the backside of the clutch or inside the flywheel, causing it to slip. But my assumption is going to be my pressure plate wasn't holding enough pressure to clamp the clutch up against the flywheel to give it that grip so that it can move the car. So this is what I'm dealing with right now, and I'll be back when I start bolting everything back up with new gaskets and seals, and I put my new McLeod flywheel on. Okay, back again, people. Back at this Camaro. I found a tool that can get the pilot bearing out because I was messing with it all last night. As you can see, it's bright outside. It's the next day, going on 3 days. This is the tool that I use. It's called Power Built from Advanced Auto. You can get them from any Advanced Auto if they have them in stock. Just call them up and check them out. It's called a pilot bearing puller. This is the part number right here, 648619. This tool works great. Trying to explain to you how it works. You probably know how it works just from looking at it if you have some type of experience, but if not, directions are on the top of the case and it tells you exactly how to use it. So trying to explain how to use this is a little bit extreme because it does involve a little bit of your brain. But yeah, this is the tool kit that I use to pull the pilot bearing out. Now this is the old one right here. As you can see, this one had the needle bearings inside of it, and this is usually what the stock ones come with. This is not what all the forums and experience that I've got from other people with LS engines to use. They say to use a solid bushing, which is what I got with my kit. My kit came with a solid bearing. I did kind of scar it up a little bit putting it back in because I should have used a piece of wood, but the inside of the bearing is actually still in decent shape, so I'm not really worrying about the outer surface, because the input shaft on the transmission doesn't run on the outer edge of the bearing. Only the input shaft that goes inside of the bearing runs on the inside of the bearing. So I'm not really pressed about the outside looking pretty. Plus, I'm not gonna see it once it goes back on, so I could care less. But it's in decent shape. It's a solid bearing. As you can see, it doesn't have those needle bearings on the inside of it. It's all one solid piece of steel or aluminum. I'm not sure what that material was made of, but I also got my seal back onto the case of the back side of the motor. I also put my belt, I forgot what they call that piece, the piece for the oil, for oil and stuff like that, barbell. That's what it sits like right up in this area when you pull this off. In the previous video, if you look at those, you'll see what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's what that looks like. I put some sealant down the bottom half right here. That's what they say to do, or you'll get a little bit of seepage of oil when you start driving it. So as you can see, I put some sealant down right there, got it all nice and sealed up and everything. That's pretty much that. So now I can go on to the next step and start putting the flywheel on. All right, I'll be back. All right, peoples, this is the centering pin or center pin, or you know, whatever they call it, to center the clutch inside of the pressure plate and the flywheel. I have the flywheel on, as you can see now. Nice and clean. Just got finished cleaning it up with a nice rag and some brake cleaner. Got it all cleaned up, all that dust and dirt off of there, so the clutch can actually grip the flywheel. And here's my clutch plate, and there's my pressure plate. So I'm gonna hopefully have this clutch and everything bolted in tonight, and probably be ending up putting in the transmission tomorrow, all in the same day of me installing my master cylinder and everything. So we're gonna see how it goes. Alright peoples, so I just got done putting my bell housing back on to the 6-speed transmission. As you can see, the bell housing goes on first and then the transmission bolts onto the bell housing. But you can see it's on around the clutch. And you can see that the clutch is on now, so everything's bolted down, torqued to spec. You always want to make sure you torque stuff like this down to spec. Torqued everything down as far as spec wise, and everything's good and ready to go. That's the pin right there. This is the pin, the alignment tool that I was talking about. That aligns the pilot bearing with the clutch on the inside between the flywheel and the pressure plate, so that it aligns it between those two. So when you slide the transmission on, the input shaft will go straight through the clutch, because those gears inside the clutch have to match up with the transmission. So when you slide that in, it'll be centered and you don't have to try to align the clutch to match with the transmission when you're trying to bolt that or install it in to get the shaft on, so that it can go flush onto the bell housing around the, the bell housing around the clutch. Then you bolt the transmission onto the bell housing. And then before you do that, of course, you pull this out and then you install the transmission. But this is gonna sit for the rest of the night. It's 1 o'clock in the morning right now as I speak. And I just wanted to bolt everything up right now, and I'll be installing the transmission probably Monday after work, because yeah, tomorrow on Sunday it's supposed to be raining. So 4th day, 5th day, we should be around that ballpark. I think the 6th day we should be good, so probably Tuesday. I also want to do my rear end pinion seal and the rear end diff cover, because as you can see, that's leaking like a MF, so that's leaking too. Oh, and my flashlight just died. So that's the end of this video. You guys pretty much know what's going on. That's pretty much it. What's going on, people? As you can see, I have a clutch now. Well, can't see, but yep, slave cylinder is bled. That's that red hose right there that goes down to the master cylinder for the clutch. And the steel braided line is installed. I know you see it right there coming from the master cylinder. That goes down to the slave. And everything is bolted up. Transmission is installed, everything is put in, cleaned up, bled, and the clutch works. So you can see part of the pressure plate from right here, that red spot behind that gold fitting right there, that's the clutch plate. But yeah, everything's put back together, everything's bolted back on, 6-speed is back in. I can go ahead and put my transmission cross member back on. I'll probably end up, I'll probably wait to do that, because I want to do this rear seal, this pinion seal on this rear end first. Because trying to put this torque arm back in here, it bolts up to the rear back there on those 2 bolt holes right there. It's a pain in the ass to do when this transmission mount goes across, and it sits right below this piece, and it's hard trying to get in here to bolt this back on. So I'll probably just leave this off for now, and then end up replacing that seal first, and then coming back and then putting all this back together. Because right now I pretty much finished up everything with the transmission, so this is done. I can actually put my shifter and everything back in if I wanted to, but I'm gonna wait till I put my transmission you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, cross member. Had a brain fart there. Once I get that on, then I'll be pretty much good to go. So everything seems to be going Okay, I did have some problems when I was putting the barbell in. I should have told this in a couple videos ago when all this was off and the clutch was off before I put the flywheel on. No one mentioned to drain the oil out of my oil pan because the pressure is still built inside of the motor. So when you release that barbell, the pressure of the oil shoots out the backside of the motor because that barbell keeps the pressure pressurized inside the filter right there. So no one said that in any of the videos where they showed replacing the barbell in the backside of the motor. I guess no one's ever mentioned replacing that while it's inside of the car. But yeah, make sure you drain your oil when you replace that barbell behind the plate where your rear main seal is. And also another thing, I think I mentioned it before, where I had transmission fluid dump on me from when I was getting this out, leaked right out the bottom side of this. I was not told to drain the transmission out, so you definitely want to do that. And bleeding the master cylinder slash slave cylinder was a bitch. I'm sorry for the words, but that is exactly what it was. I had to literally use a vacuum pump, which a lot of people recommend. It's only like 10 or 15 bucks at the auto parts store, and it's definitely worth it. But you basically come up here to where the master cylinder reservoir is. You come up here, and it's a very tedious process. You're going to be sitting here vacuuming, sucking, pulling. There's fittings that you use to put it down into that hole. Hold on, I can show you. So this is the vacuum pump that I used. It's pretty much just like the same as any other vacuum pump. It tells you how much pressure is pulling. These are all the fittings and stuff. This is the fitting that I used to go down into the hole inside the reservoir. That goes down into that hole, and it keeps pressure, so when you start vacuuming the air out of the reservoir and the master cylinder down to the slave cylinder, it'll pull all of the air out of the system. So back to here, like I said, it's just going to be a bunch of patience, and you do need a second person to do this because you're going to need someone to push that pedal in while you're vacuuming that tool. You're going to need somebody to push that pedal in to suck the air bubbles out of the pump as you push down the clutch. So it's a very tedious process and definitely takes some time to get used to, but it's doable. I did it. I did the vacuum first, and I just did all the vacuum stuff first, where I didn't get much bubbles up here or any bubbles at all. Then once I didn't get any more bubbles up here, I went down bottom, and I literally opened the bleed screw to the slave cylinder, which is up here. You can't see it, but it's a hole right here, and the bleed screw is literally like right here by my finger, and it's a size 11 for me. But you crack it open, you get someone to step on the clutch pedal, it'll bleed out, you close it, let the clutch pedal back up. I did it twice, so I did that twice, and I had a clutch pedal. But like I said, I vacuumed the crap out of the reservoir from the master cylinder, and then once I didn't get any bubbles from up top, I came down bottom, and I bled this literally 2 times. I opened, closed, as you know, push down, push up with the clutch. You need a second person, and once I did that, I had an instant pedal, and it works. And just to test it, I put my drive shaft in the back side of the transmission. It's in neutral right now, so when I spun it, of course, you know, it turned with the drive shaft in it. Now what I did was I put it into a gear, and when I put it into a gear, it doesn't matter what gear, you put it into a gear, and I tried to spin the drive shaft. It wouldn't spin. I got the second person to step on the clutch, and that it disengages the clutch, and I could spin it. So I knew my slave cylinder was working, and it was applying enough pressure to release the clutch so that you can put it into neutral and shift to the next gear. And when they released it, the pressure plate allowed the pressure to go back. It wouldn't turn anymore. So I knew that the pressure plate was working, and I knew that my slave cylinder was working. So that's how you can test to see if your clutch is actually working properly. You just put the drive shaft in, you don't connect it, you just put it inside the back side of the transmission, you turn it. Of course, it's not going to turn in gear, but you try to turn it, You get them to push down the clutch, and if it spins with them applying the clutch down, then you know your clutch works. You tell them let it go, and if it doesn't spin, then you know that it's engaged and your clutch is working properly. So that's a way to test it without starting the car up and trying to see if it'll flip through gears and all that other stuff. But that's pretty much that. So I'll be able to get back to the rest of this once I get my pinion seal for the rear end, and I'm probably going to switch to a solid mount back here as well, because this original one, this transmission moves all around while I'm shifting and I'm getting into it when I'm on the highway and back streets and stuff. So I'm probably going to end up switching this out with a solid bushing while all this is apart, and that's pretty much it. So I'll be back with the update. All right guys, so she is officially back together. Small stuff that I still have to put back together, but for the most part everything is put back together. The pinion seal is in. You can see the little red metal piece right there. That's the new pinion seal right there. The torque arm's back in, bolted down. Hopefully we don't get any more leaks back here. I still gotta do the rear end cover. The exhaust is back on, new bolts. Everything's nice and tight. No more flexing with the exhaust, so it flows right through, solid. Everything's bolted back up. Only thing now, I when I was pouring some of the transmission fluid at the top where the shifter is, it kind of drifted. I kind of spilt a little bit over. That's why it's leaking down the bottom. This seal is fine. It's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, the transmission cross member is back in, bolted down. Everything is back in. Everything's bolted back in and everything. Headers are bolted back on. Drive shafts back in, as you can see. Everything's pretty much put back together. I only have small things to do. The wire for the O2 sensor, because the rear O2 sensors were deleted because the cats are clearly not here anymore. This is where the cat used to be. These are the pipes that get rid of the cat right here. This is where the second O2 sensor would go, before and after the cat. They only used the one before, so not damn no bugs. Yeah, other than that, I'm repairing that wire now. I'll show you guys what that's about. This is what I'm working with right now. I wish I would have kept the burnt side, but this is the part that goes into the connector to the car. This is the part, oh sorry, this goes into the O2 connector. This is the other end that goes into the connector that's on the car to the wire harness. This is basically an extension because it only uses the front O2 sensors. Those O2 sensors are further away with stock exhaust, so they use these extenders for the O2 sensors to be extended from the front O2 sensors all the way back to where the O2 sensors are on the long tube headers. So this piece, like I said, rubbed up against the headers because the guy that had it before me didn't zip tie it up to not rub against it. So I'm repairing all the wires. These are the wires I'm using to repair, connect these. Tried to get as much as the same color as I could, but I'll know what's what when I put everything together. So that's pretty much that. Once I'm done with that, then all I have is the shifter and the console to be put back in. Once that's done, then that's pretty much it. I already started it up just to see if the clutch working properly and everything, and it definitely moved the tires and everything. I still got it up on jack stands, but I just wanted to give it a test run. Yeah, I just got to put the shifter back on to the transmission and put the console back in, and once I do that and then finish up the wiring with that O2 sensor harness, it's pretty much to be ready to be dropped back on the ground and give it a test run. So stay tuned. And today she is coming off the jack stands. As you can see, front's already down. She is coming down today. And there she goes. man, she is driving smooth right now, bro. This clutch, I can definitely feel a huge difference with this clutch. Like, sorry for all the sweat shit. It's hot as fuck out here, but I ain't got no AC either. True race car over here. But nah, man, this clutch is definitely a lot more smoother. It's more firm. The clutch is more firm. The engagement smooth, real smooth. But when it clamp and it get the hold of that daggone flywheel, that joint takes off. And I ain't really pushing down on it because they say I gotta wear it in for about 500 miles or equivalent to 1,000 footsteps on the clutch pedal. So I'm gonna be babying it for a little bit before I actually get to really mash on this daggone thing. It's less travel in the clutch too, so I don't have to push the clutch down so far for the clutch to, I don't have to push down on the clutch but so far for it to engage. It definitely is a big difference between this clutch and the last one. I can definitely notice a big difference. So we're gonna see how it does once I break it in, but so far so good. I'm loving this. I can definitely feel a difference already, so we're gonna see.